Hello and welcome to Views on News. I'm Jawad Tehami. Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Mr. Ishaq Dar has emphasized the importance of the sustained dialogue with the interim Afghan government to address Pakistan's concerns and promote the bilateral relations with Afghanistan. He chaired a meeting regarding Pakistan's relations with Afghanistan, and Pakistan's Special Representative on Afghanistan, Mohammad Sadiq, gave a detailed briefing on his recent visit to Afghanistan. According to Pakistan's Foreign Office, let me quote, the Special Representative called on the acting Foreign Minister of Afghanistan, Amir Khan Muttaqi. Both sides exchanged views on all issues of mutual concern, including peace and security, trade and economic cooperation, as well as people-to-people contacts. The Special Representative also met with acting Commerce Minister of Afghanistan, Nuruddin Azizi, unquote. Now, in today's program, we are going to talk about the current and the future trajectory of the bilateral relationship of Pakistan and Afghanistan, given the fact that Pakistan has some serious security concerns as far as interim Afghan government's responsibility of not allowing the Afghan soil to be used for any terrorist activity against any other country is concerned. Also, this particular visit by the Special Representative to Afghanistan comes after the authorities in Pakistan had mentioned of the evidence of the that tragic Jafar Express hijacking incident, in which the terrorists which were involved were being handled from Afghanistan. And also Pakistan had also undertaken a drive to expel the illegal foreigners from the country, and now the deadline for the illegal foreigners is also approaching, that is 31st of March. Also, all these aspects of a discussion, what could be the potential options at the hands of the Pakistani authorities, keeping in line as Pakistan has some serious security concerns after the Kabul takeover by the Taliban, their responsibility of their inability to crack down against the militant outfits and the terror organizations which are having safe haven there in Afghanistan. Also at the same time, the role and the responsibility of the international community when it comes to addressing this particular menace of terrorism that has haunted Pakistan once again after the Kabul takeover by the Taliban. Also, when Pakistan had been hosting millions of Afghan refugees for such a long time, for over the number of years, what happens to be the responsibility of the international community in that particular domain? Also, for all that, we are honored to be joined in the studio by Mr. Sangeen Khan Panizai, Afghan affairs expert. Mr. Panizai, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. On Skype at the same time, we are honored to be joined by Mr. G.R. Baloch, former ambassador. Mr. Baloch, thank you very much for your time also, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Now, let me begin the discussion. Mr. Panizai, if you allow me, let me begin the discussion with Mr. Baloch. Mr. Baloch, now we've seen that very tragic incident of the hijacking of the Jafar Express in Balochistan. The authorities at that particular point in time, we saw the DGI SPR, also the Foreign Office spokesperson saying that the terrorists involved in that incident were being handled from Afghanistan, and there is evidence regarding that available. Now, this particular visit by the Special Representative to Afghanistan, what's the significance at this particular point in time?
Thank you, Jawad. Basically, let me start with the visit by the Special Envoy Ambassador Mohammad Sadiq. He is one of our distinguished diplomats and career diplomats, and I had the honor of being with him and serving when he was in Washington, and I was also in the United States. And also that we know that he is one of the longest serving. I think he served there in Kabul about between 7 to 9 years. And he has a lot of respect among the powerful elite of Afghanistan and the public at large. And he's known for his skill, for his integrity. So first of all, I think it was a very good choice when they reappointed him as the special envoy. And then this is, I believe, after assuming his office, his second visit. The first visit was unfortunately at the time when we had some other incidents. So I think the timings are very crucial for two reasons. One is, as you mentioned, the very, very unfortunate and a very, very dastardly the incident of hijacking of the Jaffa Express. And not only that, the footprints of this very incident, but Pakistan has a whole portfolio of such incidents which have occurred in Pakistan and especially in KPK and Balochistan. And there is a clear evidence, irrefutable almost, that the footprints go back to Afghanistan. Pakistan has been emphasizing that Afghanistan must address this vital issue of not allowing its territory for terrorist activities. What I see from the press statements and the statements of the Foreign Office, that this was an attempt by Pakistan with a complete sincerity to engage Afghanistan. Because there was a point of view in the country to which I also subscribe that time and even now, that we have no option but to engage our Taliban regime, whosoever is now is in power in Kabul. So I think it was a very good idea that we engage them and put it on the table that what is at stake. If now they have to make a choice, they have to make a choice that to continue to be the way they are, that it's a except for Kabul, that any outfit, international outfit, can come and launch its activities against other states. This is one option, and that they remain excommunicated from the larger international community, and that there are teeming millions. In fact, as we all know, that more than half the population of Afghanistan is kind of in the hunger index, and there is simply no money to go for rebuilding that infrastructure, vital infrastructure that you need for a state to survive. After all, Afghanistan has been in a state of war for the last 50 years plus. So I think here is the time that and Pakistan is a natural partner for Afghanistan to link with the world, not only physically and geographically, but even diplomatically. So I think this was a very good idea to send across Ambassador Mohammad Sadiq Khan to Kabul, make this evident. And then, of course, we have this refugee problem that can become a humanitarian catastrophe, as well as can create hurdles in like smoothing our relations with Afghanistan. So I think it was a good idea.
Very important point that you have made, the refugee problem. Also, when we have that irrefutable evidence of the Afghan nationals found involved in these heinous acts of terror perpetrated from Afghan soil here in Pakistan. Regarding, you already mentioned, Ambassador Baloch, this idea being good at this particular point in time, another attempt on the part of Pakistani authorities in order to engage with Afghanistan. It's up to them now to make a choice over here at this critical juncture. My question to you is, they already had a choice and they didn't fulfill their responsibility. We saw quite a considerable role that was played by Pakistani authorities, from Afghan peace and reconciliation efforts, then Pakistan advocating that very case of the Afghan people at all the international fora so vociferously regarding the dire humanitarian crisis, the economic crisis they were faced with. Pakistan been hosting millions of refugees also for so many years. Now, when it comes to their understanding of this entire equation at this particular critical juncture on the part of the interim Afghan authorities, what is ideally expected of them if they didn't have that very right choice made already during the last 3 and plus years since they took over Kabul? What should ideally be expected from them at this point?
See now, I think we, being a very mature state, a organized state, a responsible state, as compared to Afghanistan, which is kind of I would say, a certain group of people who were fighting there were several groups who were fighting the occupation of Afghanistan by the US. They got, because of, by default, they are now in Kabul and pretend to be the regime, the de facto and de jure as well from their perspective. But we have to keep in mind that we are dealing with a very different kind of a creature, if I'm not using a derogatory word, but a certain organizational chaos that Afghanistan is faced with now. Now, out of that organizational chaos, we have to find a way. So I think disengagement is simply no option for us. So we have to keep trying. Now, what they have to reply back, that is a question. So again, they have different, as we all know, that in Afghanistan there is a different perspective about themselves, about their state, and also relations with others. There are these Kandahar segment, the other Kabylis. So there is this point of view and worldview, all that differs. So I think we have to continuously have to try with them, and I think incrementally solve those issues which now are too complex, starting of course with ensuring that people's livelihood, which depends on trade between Pakistan and Afghanistan, should resume with complete regard to the rules and regulations of Pakistan, number one. Number two, now these refugees which have to go back to Afghanistan, they must, in my view, whatever is the situation, has to be shown dignity. There should simply, because after all, these are the people going to be there in Afghanistan whenever they go, for they and their children will be our neighbors. So we have to make sure that Pakistan, in the eyes of the history, in the eyes of the world, is not seen as some state which did not deal with the people with a basic human dignity. That is to be done. Then, of course,
particular front, Mr. Baloch, which have been taken by the authorities in Pakistan in order to ensure that this particular repatriation happens in a dignified manner. Number of other points. I'll come back to you, Mr. Baloch. Mr. Panazi, now this particular engagement, how significant that one is, and how important is sustained dialogue and engagement with the interim Afghan government when it comes to Pakistan's alleviating Pakistan's concerns, the primary of which we know that remains to be the security concern, the availability of Afghan soil as a safe haven for the terrorist organizations such as the Khawarij Band Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, as well as now we have seen increasing attacks on the part of Band Balochistan Liberation Army.
First of all, thank you very much. Yes, absolutely. As what the speaker rightly mentioned, so engagement is the only way to move ahead when it comes to Pakistan interest. No doubt, Pakistan has a very genuine, this concern when it comes to TTP because there are a couple of not only the Pakistani report but as well as the UN-sponsored, UN, approved reports that the TTP has been using Afghan land against Pakistan. So for Pakistan, as of now, the priority number one is security. And Pakistan has been affected through multiple times by the terrorist activities which has been using the Afghan land, number one. And Pakistan has repeatedly conveyed to the Afghan, sitting regime that your land has been used, take decisive action. In the very first place, ever since the Afghan Taliban took over, so Pakistan was expecting that with the arrival of new setup, there would be some more engagement. So Pakistani tried to wait, adopted this wait and see approach. But slowly and gradually, we expected that there would be some sort of, it would take time. It was very genuine, it's a new regime. It may take time because Afghanistan might not be in a position to control this such a large country because there were internal divisions within the Afghan regime as well. But slowly and gradually Pakistan's due concerns was not listened. We tried to engage through our diplomatic channels, but that was not listened. As far as Pakistan's genuine concern has got, obviously that has got some irrefutable and irresistible reports that Afghan land has been used against Pakistan. Now the Pakistan stance has been equally acknowledged by the international community as well. China has seconded the concerns of Pakistan, equally Russia, even the American administration has praised the Pakistan efforts against terrorism, and they have asked, and they do agree with the Pakistan concern when it comes to TTP. And recently there's this report, Global Terrorism Index, which has structured, which has classified TTP as a second dangerous terrorist group in the world. So as far as the Pakistan concerns is concerned, it's very genuine. Pakistan has been subject of this this scourge of terrorism. Not only this TTP, now this dangerous trend we witnessed, continue to see, is the, as I just mentioned in my previous talks as well, there's this combination between the Khawarij, TTP, and these BLA, BLF. So this is very dangerous. And again, different multiple channel reports suggest that they have one way the other way they have got this assistance across the border. So it's highly the responsibility of the sitting Afghan regime to act upon the Pakistan concern. So that, I think, in the part of the Pakistan goodwill gesture, Pakistan has again engaged the Afghan regime diplomatically in the context of such a very disastrous incidents took place.
We often get to hear about the internal divisions within the ranks of the interim Afghan government, the Afghan Taliban. We've got a plethora of reports also from the United Nations, its sanctions monitoring team. Number of times it has mentioned how there has been support to these Khawarij, the other terrorist outfits which have been directly posing a serious threat to Pakistan, perpetrating these heinous terror acts here in Pakistan using the Afghan soil. Now, let's try to compare the two scenarios. You have already talked about this particular collusion that is happening, the cooperation, the collaboration between like different terrorist organizations. At the same time, you also talk of the internal divisions within the Afghanistan Taliban ranks. Can you simplify, if there are internal divisions already there within that larger group that is governing that war-ravaged country, how is it possible that these groups must be collaborating or colluding, but we know that they are doing it? What sort of an effect or impact that internal division of the Afghan Taliban might have or could have on this particular cooperation among these terrorist groups?
And I think there are some standard vices within the Afghan regime as well, since they have got some different divisions. Say for example, there's this Kandahar Shura, which are the more traditional, more conservative in their approach, and they have been they're this very conservative hardline approach. Then there is this the new one, the Kabul Shura. I mean, those who have got this international and global exposure, they were engaged in signing the Doha agreement. So I think some of the standard vices, they have this approach towards the respecting the international rules, accepting the international law, providing space to the international space, accepting and giving space to the women education, allowing women and girls to get education, and deny the space for terrorist groups. And I think that that specific group, I think they do not have much sway influence over the larger canvas I just mentioned about, over the the Kandahar Shura, which are the traditional, having very hardline approach. But I think there must be some standard vices. If the Afghan sitting interim government, if they wish to accept the international legitimacy, practically speaking, if they wish to have more international engagement, because they are they are the one they need flow of money, they are the one they need the international foreign direct investment, because the way a couple of reports suggest that the human suffering and in terms of the human security, food security, that has been suffering very badly. I think in the larger interest of their people as well, I think the traditional, the hardliners of within the Afghan regime, they will have to cooperate. They will have to bring their tone down and accept the international norms, and particularly they have to collaborate Pakistan concern, because it is a Pakistan which has been gracefully, happily hosting our Afghan brothers ever since the Russian USSR invasion of Afghanistan. So despite the fact, since Pakistan is not the signatory to UN Convention on Refugees 1951 and its protocol 1967, Pakistan is not signatory to that. Afghanistan is. Since Pakistan is not signatory to that, despite the fact Pakistan has been gracefully, happily hosting them since we are neighbors.
Right.
Number two, however, there are sometimes legal, restrictions as well. Since Pakistan does not have some domestic law to engage with these refugees, but yet, despite the fact, Pakistan has been engaging them different times, starting from the 1979 till 1989, the USSR, invasion of Afghanistan, millions of the Afghan refugees came. Then 1990s, then after the 9/11, then 2006, we issued, proof of registration card where we provided some legal cover temporary to these Afghan refugees. Then again 2016. So all it reflects, despite the fact Pakistan is not, the international signatory to a couple of the UN conventions, but keeping the international human rights, keeping human rights as a responsible, organized, and more, organized state, Pakistan has been assisting very happily. So at the same time, it
on the basis of humanitarian grounds.
on the basis of humanitarian grounds. So I think
and good neighborly understanding.
obviously that is the reason. At the same time, it is the equal responsibility of the Afghan regime to reciprocate with the same good gestures. Pakistan has been for last 7 to 8 years, it has become very clear.
I get your point. We are honored to be joined by another participant, Mr. Zahir Shah Shirazi, Afghan affairs expert. Mr. Shirazi, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Mr. Shirazi, this particular engagement, high-level engagement, Pakistan's special representative on Afghanistan had a 3-day visit over there, engagement with the interim Afghan authorities, foreign minister as well as commerce minister. What should be expected from them? And we've already had the discussion, both the participants are of the view that it's a good idea on the part of Pakistani authorities to continue to engage with the interim Afghan authorities. What do you expect from them this time around? Mr. Shirazi, can you hear me, please?
Can't hear you.
Please go ahead. Can you hear me? Okay, Mr. G.R. Baloch, I think there's a little bit of problem as far as connecting with Mr. Shirazi is concerned. Mr. Baloch, when we talk about, you also mentioned of the internal divisions within the Afghan Taliban. Could you shed a little bit of light regarding that? Mr. Baloch, can you hear me, please? Mr. Panizzi, I think we've lost the connection with Mr. Baloch as well as Mr. Shirazi. Will try to reconnect with them. Mr. Panizzi, now these two different groups that you've already elaborated in detail, Kandaharis and the people sitting in Kabul. So Kandaharis happening to be conservatives, that's Shura, and there are liberal and center voices, as you already mentioned, within the people sitting in Kabul. And ultimately, you are of the view it is those people sitting in Kabul that would supersede, and they would, the Kandaharis would have to retreat. Am I correct in understanding? So when we talk about their militant wing side, which out of the two has got more prowess?
Unfortunately, the previous one, I mean the Kandahar Shura, which has more hardline in its approach when it comes to human rights, when it comes to women rights, when it comes to girls' education, when it comes to engaging with the West. They are because they have got this very hardline approach. When it comes to these, having this support for the Khawarij, TTP and other groups, we have to understand the context. Since the TTP and the Afghan Taliban, who are presently, the authority in Afghan, they have got some familial relationship.
I'll go to that particular point. That's a very important point. I want to, at this particular point in time, I want to understand which out of these two groups on the ground has got that very extent of power or the authority in terms of the control over the territory, and also in terms of the authority they can exercise through arms.
I think the previous one, as just mentioned, the Kandahar Shura. I mean, they have been the pioneers of this Taliban ever since the Taliban movement started taking place back in 1990s. They have more of the say. I mean, recently, previously, a few of the reports suggested even those who are sitting in the Kabul, they have got the international legitimacy internationally. They have this exposure. So one of the Afghan minister who tried to spoke about the women rights, women education, and it is believed to be so that he left of Kabul for Dubai or for a foreign country because he disagreed with the Kandahar Shura because he had some sort of some space flexibility when it comes to the international engagement, engaging with the international community. So I think this is very unfortunate. The Kandahar Shura which exercises larger influence, and I think they will have to decide it. I do believe, as I just mentioned, the TTPs, and they've got some familiar relationships. They have got the based on cultural, historical, and ideological basis. Though their goals might be different, though their operational and strategic and tactical level operational capabilities do differ, but overall, if the Afghan Taliban, I mean the overall sitting in Kabul or Kandahar, if they put pressure on them, I believe so the TTP issue can be resolved, because Pakistan has been raising this issue for a couple of years that TTP is the main concern. TTP is creating issues for Pakistan, and I believe so through frequent engagement, through more talks, this issue could be resolved. As you know, as an academician, they suggest this. There is this theory of economic interdependence. The more two states rely on each other politically, economically, social engagement, the strains between the two countries could be reduced, could be removed. So I do suggest for the both countries as well, the more talks, more engagement. I think I really appreciate the initiative taken by the Pakistan government, engagement of Afghan Taliban. At the same time, they have the equal responsibility.
They have the equal responsibility. There is a statement as to, as I already mentioned, there was a mention of the evidence by the Pakistani authorities when we specifically talk about that tragic incident of Jafar Express hijacking. We saw DGI-SPR also alluding to that particular evidence, also the Foreign Office spokesperson. But after that, we've seen that statement, a rebuttal of that on the part of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Afghanistan. Let me quote, if you allow me: "We categorically reject, quote, baseless allegations by Pakistan's authorities linking the attack on a passenger train in Balochistan province." And also it continues to go on to deny, let me quote, "No member of Baloch opposition have presence in Afghanistan, nor have they ever had or have any links with the Islamic Emirate." This similar sort of a tone we have seen, the pattern of denial already when it comes to Pakistan's concerns regarding the presence of banned TTP over there in Afghanistan. So what does that depict?
I mean, they will have to defend their wrongdoings, but keep aside for a while the Pakistan stance. I mean, the international UN Security Council monitoring reports, they have suggested the weaponry that were left after the American withdrawal. How did it come to the BLA, BLF, and other regional terrorist groups? How did it come to the other, the Khawarij TTP? So that is the question of $1 million question. It came, it were left $1 billion of the weaponry to the Afghan Taliban. They were required of money, so they started selling across the region. They started selling to the TTP. They started giving it to the these BLA, BLF, these insurgent groups, because they were required of money. And we have seen a couple of evidences
selling
as
it
well.
to TTP and other terrorist
Exactly.
organizations.
There are a couple of credible reports.
So if those militant outfits or terrorist organizations are purchasing that NATO-grade weaponry from Afghan Taliban, where that money is coming from?
They have got through smuggling, they have got lots of money. And we have seen recently couple of when the Jafar Express incident took place, our intelligence detected there was this conversation. They were in contact with the Afghanistan leaders. So that's one thing. As far as your question is concerned, money, there are various channels. It comes through illegal way. through smuggling, it comes through the extortion, and there are other groups. We cannot deny the fact because it has become quite international, but allow me to say there has been a couple of reports that India has been sponsoring these terrorist groups. So they are through black markets, they are receiving their money through third country as well. But I do mention there is the connection of India that has been sponsoring money, and we have seen India has been sponsoring against CPAC as well, and the incarcerated Indian agent Gulbashan Yadav has confessed this thing. There's this they have specifically designed this DIV unit under the raw research analysis wing. They specifically supervised, they fund to these terrorist groups to create anarchy in Pakistan. So through various channels, through smuggling, through extortion, through black market, through the inimical elements they are sponsoring. So there are various channels they are receiving money.
Right. Mr. Baloch, I hope that you are with us and we have reconnected with you. You already talked about the internal divisions within Afghanistan's Taliban's. We also know for a fact there are multiple reports on the part of the United Nations that talk of the assistance from the Afghan Taliban to the banned militant outfits and terrorist organizations such as the TTP as well as BLA. When we do understand that there are internal divisions there, so which out of the two or whatever the groups they are within the Afghan Taliban's ranks, which do you think is more supportive of these terrorist organizations?
Joseph, I think it will be very difficult to pin a finger on some like outfit which is responsible. But I will speak as a citizen of Pakistan, and being a citizen of Pakistan and being a former civil servant, we speak to the authority which is in the capital. For us, the interlocutors are sitting in Kabul, and they are responsible because they claim to be the government, quote unquote. If that be the case, so whatever is their internal divisions, that is good for understanding as an analyst. But there's a difference when you are interacting with as a government with any entity which claims to be the de facto authority in that territory. In that case, definitely the people sitting in Kabul, having the titles, having the flags of Afghanistan, and claiming to be the representing the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. So I think from my point of view, we shouldn't go into this internal, because then there'll be no limit. Then within Kandahar, there'll be different tribes. I was looking at Afghanistan's history, which I also teach, that, it's as a now, since the Afghan wars, even before that. So it's a society which has its own, no doubt, customs and other local order to govern. But it is a very historically very factionalized.
I get your point, Mr. Baloch. It's a very important point that you have highlighted over here, that as a nation, as a country, as an authority in a specific nation, we should be expecting from those authorities which are sitting in Kabul. They've got those titles and they must be fulfilling that international obligation. What about the other group, which has also been mentioned quite in detail by Mr. Panizé? When it comes to the influence, do you think the people sitting in Kabul exercise ample influence on the people who are sitting in a different mood or with a different sort of an understanding? Do they exercise considerable influence over them? If yes, then we must be seeing this particular problem being resolved to a considerable extent. And if not, so the problem lies somewhere there. So what to do regarding that?
Yeah, I think there is this tug of war between the executive authority which sits in Kabul and the other Kandahari segment of the Taliban power structure, because their spiritual leader, who is supposed to be the Khalifa for the Emirate, sits there in Kandahar. So I think the ideologically, I would say that the balance is in favor of Kandahar than Kabul. And the very fact that we go to them several times, they promise, but they cannot deliver. It means, as an analyst, I would tend to think that perhaps Kandahar has, I think, much more stronger strength to pull the triggers and pull the ropes, strings of Kabul. So I think, actually, if you look at it, perhaps Kandahar has more power as compared to Kabul. That I'm saying only on my assumption as an analyst. What actually is there, one can't really say for definite. For sure enough, it is there. But again, I'll reiterate that if there's a failure to deliver on their promises, we will be the international community, as well as Pakistan as a state, as a country, would hold those people responsible. Therefore, I think this has to be made like clear to them that you'll be responsible. Whatever your internal problems are, that is none of our business. As far as we are
that is their
concerned,
problem. They need to look into that particular aspect of it. Mr. Baloch, you already talked that Pakistan happens to be a natural link when it comes to for Afghanistan, not in terms of geography, but also diplomatically. When we talk about the interdependence, when we talk about in terms of trade and the economic independence, we've also seen Special Representative also met with the acting Commerce Minister of Afghanistan, Nuruddin Azizi. Both sides discussed bilateral trade and economic relations, as well as cooperation in the areas of transit and connectivity. You already talked of realization must be there among the ranks of the Afghan Taliban. For how long they would continue to be excommunicated from the international community. So when it comes to the economic integration of this war-ravaged country, what are your recommendations? What are the options here for us?
I think the most important thing for us is to emphasize the importance of Afghanistan as an important link of CPAC. Unless, and CPAC will remain a kind of unfinished agenda unless Afghanistan joins CPAC. And it can only join when Afghanistan becomes a normal state. I'll tell you, I hope we have a few minutes. There was a study we did, there was a workshop actually in Islamabad, which I attended. The very fact that they said, if Afghan Taliban have to understand that they just charge $1,000 per container, they say hundreds of thousands of containers will go from our port, that is Pakistan's Gwadar or Karachi or Port Qasim, to Central Asia, and that should make a substantial part of the national GDP. So I think this needs to be told to them, this needs to be emphasized on them, that how Pakistan is a link. After all, what was the whole issue of Afghanistan? It was the access to the hot waters, and we being lucky to have the hot waters on our lands. So they need to be understood that they have to come out of their isolation. And I think for that, we have to touch that segment of the society. So I think an internal pressure has to build within Afghanistan to change their course, particularly with respect to Pakistan, because here Pakistan gives them an option for a brighter future, for a prosperous Afghanistan, for an integrated Afghanistan, for a peaceful Afghanistan, because peace in Afghanistan is vital for our peace in Pakistan. The prosperity of Afghanistan is also prosperity of Pakistan. After all, same tribe, they live across the border, and also that we know that regions and sub-regions, they always develop together. It's not possible for Afghanistan to remain isolated, or for Pakistan to remain isolated.
Stable Afghanistan is not only in the favor of Afghanistan itself, also for Pakistan, also for the region, and also for the entire world at large. Mr. Baloch, I'll come back to you with one last question regarding the refugee problem here, the illegal immigrants here in Pakistan, Pakistan's drive to expel them because they've been found involved in heinous acts of terror. Mr. Panizai, economic interdependence that you already talked of. When it comes to the realization among the Afghan Taliban's ranks, the kind of potential this particular region has got through connectivity, the kind of project that we have seen, the Belt and Road Initiative, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, Afghanistan being the transit route, a route towards the Central Asian states, connecting this particular South Asian side, China, and also the Central Asians. There lies a huge potential over there. Why wouldn't any authority in a country won't like to exploit that?
As I just mentioned, there needs to be a realization on them. I think Chinese are very intelligent. They are engaging with them. They are just, inculcating to them how important is your region in terms of the critical rare minerals, in terms of the natural resources, and there are untapped resources in Afghanistan. Obviously, as just what the speaker rightly mentioned, so peace in Afghanistan is critical in order to materialize or operationalize this all ambitious plan, especially if there's a peace in Afghanistan, there will be easily connectivity through Afghan corridor, through Central Asia, and through Central Asia, Afghanistan would be connected through Pakistan, and Pakistan has this access to the Arabian Sea. Through Arabian Sea, this all region will be connected to the European markets and to the African markets. Number one, so that's very much important.
Why won't any authority not like to exploit that very potential?
I think every sane or competent
and rather
would really wish to.
And rather going for the shortcuts.
Exactly, but unfortunately, I think there are some. I just mentioned there is this. The conservative approach. They are not coming off. They are not thinking out of the box. I think they will have to think the way Chinese are engaging. Even the states are themselves bringing their technology for the extraction. So I think the conservative thoughts have influenced.
Is their responsibility at this particular point in time to capitalize on this particular opportunity?
If you allow,
please
last point. I just want to mention what else could be done on the part of Pakistan, because we are, end of the day, our people suffer. End of the day, even their people suffer as well. When this blockade in to Pakistan or Afghanistan border, the people on either side, they suffer. So what needs to be done? I think they both need to capitalize upon their economic opportunities, and through for that the Pakistan concern needs to be resolved. Number two, when it comes to the refugees, they need to be sorted very carefully. I think there should be very graceful, dignified.
When they claim that the security situation within Afghanistan is improved, and they also claim that the economic situation within Afghanistan is also improved. So what's the harm in taking those illegal refugees back?
I think obviously they will have to take it, and there are exactly 5 million those refugees who are awaiting for the American visa approval. Responsibility of the international community.
Unfortunately, we are short of time. I'll have to end the show right over here. Mr. G.R. Baloch, my sincere apologies. I can't come to you. I have to end the show over here. We've had a great discussion with you. Thank you very much for taking time out. Former ambassador joining us on Skype, Mr. Sangeen Khan Panizai, Afghan affairs expert, joining us in the studio. Thank you very much for your time also, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. With that, we come to the end of today's episode. Till the next one, take good care of yourselves.